how to create your perfect bait, otherwise known as lead magnet. So when it comes to Facebook advertising, the one thing that's going to bring your cost per lead down is talking directly to the customer in regards to a pain point and finding and offering a solution to that pain point. So in this video, we're going to discuss how do we go about, finding those exact pain points and finding that exact solution that the customer is looking for, or that the person we want to get onto our email list is looking for. So I'm going to be showing you a survey that I conducted recently for one of my clients, and you'll hear me talking about some of the work I'm doing on her account and throughout some of these videos. But her company name is Order Out of Chaos. Her name is Leslie, and so this is a survey that we recently put out in order to create her perfect bait. Okay, so Leslie is an Amazon seller. She's actually also well known in her industry. She's in the educational industry. She teaches, students how to time manage. She teaches parents. She educates parents on how to help their students time manage so that they can go ahead and create, do their homework on time and get all their activities set and this and that. So on Amazon, she sells her own proprietary student planner. I want to make sure I'm saying this right. Student planner journal. And so, while she does really well on Amazon, she wanted, or rather, we talked about how to go about, doing more also on her Shopify store, as well as, generating more leads for a plethora of products that she does offer on her Shopify storefront. So coming up with a perfect bait encompasses, putting out a survey to your customers. Now, if you do not have a customer list yet, do not fret. At the end of this video, I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of different other ways in which you can go about doing this. So we may think that we know our customers, right? I'm an Amazon seller. I'm trying to teach how to sell on Amazon. But the one thing that we do not take into consideration is that within our business, we could be further along than where other people are at along the line, right? So as an Amazon seller trying to teach how to sell on Amazon, I may think that the number one pain point of my audience is how to import products from China, because, I've been doing this for a long time. And so to me, that seems to make sense, right? Finding products doesn't make sense to me because to me, that personally just comes a little easier. So when I sent a survey out to my customer base, my email base, I asked, these same questions, and I figured out my perfect bait, which you probably came in through a lot of, some of the baits that you saw on Facebook. So I obviously attracted some people who are interested in selling on Amazon, who are interested in e-com, Facebook marketing and whatnot. So this particular bait, these questions rather, can be used across many different niches. So this is what we're doing here. If you have a current email list, I'm going to have you create a Google form survey for them. Even if you don't, hopefully you can, well, actually at the end, I'll tell you exactly how to go about that. But we're going to create a Google form, which is free. And these are the questions that we're going to ask them, or at least we're going to ask them similar to these questions. So here, because Leslie's selling student planner journals, right? The problem that we're, the initial top of mind problem here is time management for students, right? For me, as an Amazon seller, initial top of mind without doing any sort of survey questions to my members is how to sell on Amazon. Okay, so that's sort of the basics, the basic part of the base of where you start with this. So we created this form. We got 39 responses. I'll show you the responses shortly. But we sent this out to her email list. Now, it's important to know that even though she has an email list with thousands of people, we only got 39 responses. As long as you get 20 responses, it's okay, because the majority of people feel the same way. We're doing a sampling of people so that we can hear what their pain points are, so that when we create our Facebook bait, then they feel like we know who they are. So these are the 4 specific questions across any niche that you want to ask in order for us to extract the type of answers that's gonna help us out. So in this case, we're talking student, time management. The first question we posed was, what's your child's number one struggle with time management? In other words, if you can name the one thing that gets in their way, what would this one thing be? Now, please go ahead and copy these questions, inserting, what makes sense with your product, your e-commerce product, okay? Or if you're selling a digital product, what makes sense to, your digital product here. But what's your number one struggle with time management? So in my case, when I was doing the how to sell on Amazon, it's what's your number one struggle with how to sell on Amazon, okay? Pretty basic in that regard. Question number 2, what's the number one thing you've already tried and didn't work when attempting to help your student with time management, basically here, right? So what we want to do in this question is we're trying to figure out, if we can address what didn't work in our Facebook ad, people are really going to be wowed by the fact that we actually know this, right? What's the number one thing you tried? Well, I tried working with a consultant, and didn't work. I tried, putting a timer, it didn't work. When we hear about these pain points, we can go ahead and address them. Now, to go back to question number 1, what's your child's number one struggle with time management? This is where we're going to find what the main issue, what we want to pretty much, what we pretty much want to point out when we come up with our bait. And I'll go ahead and I'll show you how to come up with that bait, and I'll show you the answers to this so you can see how I came up with that for Leslie. Question number 3, what's the number one thing you fear will happen if your child doesn't learn how to better manage their time? Okay, so in my situation, when I was doing Amazon sellers survey, I wrote, what's the number one thing you fear what's the number one thing holding you back from starting an Amazon business? Okay, I want to give you a couple of different ways to question this, but keeping within the same theme so that we can extract the right answers here. Question number 4, name 3 things you wish your child did better, to better manage their time. And this is really where, and I make this question optional, but this is really where we're going to get that extra kind of juice, that extra information that we can once again go ahead and create an amazing bait. And just so you know, a lot of these questions and the answers that we're going to get, it doesn't just help us create our bait, it's actually going to help us create more copy within our funnel as we continue building out our funnels. So if you are in the e-commerce business, which most of you guys who are here are in the e-commerce business, or if you don't know, I'll let you know now, that it generally takes 7 touches in order for you to gain a customer. And that's in terms of cold traffic, right? So most of us, we don't really have that much patience. We want to get in there and we want to just sell. And we find out that, hey, Facebook advertising can get really expensive if you just pop an offer, and force it down people's throat on Facebook. So a part of coming up with this bait is not simply just to initially ask for a sale. It's pretty much starting to get this customer into our funnel where we will then go ahead and create email sequences, automatic email sequences, warm them up, give them a little bit more material. And then along that line, we're still, we're asking them for the sale. So let's go look at some of the answers so then I can help you. I can show you how we went about creating this bait, and then I'll go ahead and show you the final guide that we ended up creating to give out to the lead magnet, her leads that come through here. So what's your child's number one struggle with time management, right? Well, there was someone apparently here who somehow managed to answer 7 times, and you'll see that throughout. But otherwise, so we pretty much got 32 responses probably here. So what you really want to do when you're looking at these questions, okay, is you want to look and find patterns. Okay, you want to find what are the words that they are constantly using, right? So what I would do is I would go ahead and print out these answers, and I would start circling words that constantly are coming up. Prioritizing, same thing, right? Procrastination, that's a whole nother word there. And I would go ahead and, basically distractions, that's used 2 times from due to. So each line, basically, if you guys haven't used this before, each line, other than this person who somehow managed to get 7 or 8 responses in there, each line represents a new person's entry. Okay, so I'm doing a summary here. Individual, I can see individual answers. This is a summary. So I would go ahead, print this out, circle the words that come up often, because the number one word that comes up in this first question, what's your number one struggle? That's the number one pain point that we're going to hit upon within our bait. Okay, so we're looking through this, we're trying to see if there are patterns, and we're circling words that are common throughout within each individual question. Okay, so we're doing that. So you can see here, taking forever to do their homework, doesn't write things down. Procrastination comes up again. Distraction, that comes up again. Planning, people write a lot of stuff there. I mean, this is gold mine of information, by the way, that they're giving you here, okay? So look, question number 2. What's the number one thing you've already tried and didn't work when attempting to help them? By the way, when I sent out my survey to Amazon sellers, the number one pain point, finding a product to sell. And that's how I came up with my super simple bait. Here's a 10-point checklist of finding a profitable product to sell on Amazon. I think that was the exact, it might have been a slightly different, but that was pretty much it. And the reason it converted so well was because I hit this pain point, right? So what's the number one thing you've already tried and didn't work when attempting to help them with time management? All amazing stuff. Scheduling, blocks, planners. And again, we're circling words that are in common here, okay? We're trying to find words that we can use within our bait, and then we're going to figure out, we're going to come up with a great bait that speaks to them. Providing a structure, order out of chaos planner. Leslie sells, planner journals, academic coaching. You'll hear tons of stuff from people. And this is just great feedback to get. What's the number one thing you fear will happen if your child doesn't learn how to better manage their time? Bad grades, less than ideal college career. These are all the fears. A lot of people, when you're speaking to them, some marketers use fear-based marketing because it plays with people's emotions, right? How to not fail out of college, how to, better time management so you don't fail out of college. I mean, that fear-based marketing does work really well, okay? So we're doing that for, I think for me, it was what's the number one thing that holds you back from starting an Amazon business, okay? I'm giving you a couple different ways to phrase these questions in case you're doing any sort of digital marketing or digital, downloads or whatever you may be selling. So optional question number 4, name 3 things you wish your child did better to manage their time. Again, procrastination, right? Now, you're asking these questions. You're going to get a lot of repeat answers in some of the questions, which is fine. Again, we're pretty much just circling everything, and we're trying to extract what we can in order so that we can create our bait. Set a timer, use a planner. Okay, all tons of information that we'll use in our copy later on. Okay, right now we're just simply coming up with the bait. So how do we come up with our bait? And first off, one good thing to point out here, and hopefully you guys notice this within the survey, I'm not asking multiple choice questions here, okay? I'm not giving people answers that I came up with, because the whole point of this is to leave everything open-ended so that then you can go ahead and get the best possible information direct from the mouth of your customers here, okay? And we're using the exact words that they are using when we're creating our bait. So let's look at how do we put our bait together. So now that we have the survey conducted, we get at least 20 surveys back and we have the information in front of us. This is how we go about creating our bait. Now, this is a simple template that you can use that has 3 different ways in which you can write out your bait. You don't have to use this to the T. I switch mines around, and the better that you become with this, the better or the more extravagant you can get with creating your bait. But if you're brand new at this, I would highly suggest sticking to a template similar like this for coming up with your bait. Okay, this is kind of like a foolproof way of coming up with something that has a good chance of working. So first, you could do the, how to, and then come up with, whatever the desired outcome was that the customer wrote. So how to better time, let me go with mine. How to successfully sell on Amazon, because most people, that's what I read as I went through my survey. How to successfully sell on Amazon without losing your shirt over it. I think at one point I was doing that. That was for another little thing I did. How to successfully sell on Amazon without losing tons of time and cash, I think is what it was, because that was a constant pain point. People did not want to lose cash. Don't want to lose money. Don't lose money. And actually, I think that's what I ended up using, because those are the exact words, without losing money. So there's a big difference. Without losing cash, that's something that I just, came out of my head right now. But the actual word that was constant was money. So don't go ahead switching around words that you think sound better. Use exact words. This is what actually gets people to click on these things, because it sounds like you know them. So here's a second one that you can try out for creating your bait. 7 simple steps to the desired outcome, successfully selling on Amazon. Okay. So these are simple baits, right? The first one was, more where it had 2 points where we knew the desired outcome because of the survey. We knew what the pain point was. So we did 2 kind of unknowns, figured them out in the survey, added them to the how-to and the without. Simple steps 2, this is a little bit easier. It's used frequently, so you may want to change this up. Even still, it worked for me when I did my 10-point product checklist. Download my 10-point product checklist on how to successfully, how to find a profitable product to sell on Amazon. So it worked for me, but it is overused quite a bit. And to tell you the truth, this is the same. I actually used number 2 to create Leslie's bait, and I'll show it to you in a minute. Or I'll show you the actual PDF that she created, because in the second part of this video is where I show you, I'm going to show you the creative that we're coming up with, or actually we might not be at the creative part for the second part of the video, but in the second part, this is going to be probably a 2-3 part video to show you the whole process. The third way, how to get desired outcome in X amount of time, how to successfully sell $100,000 on Amazon in 90 days, how to successfully build an Amazon business in 90 days, right? And so if you have results to show, this would be the bait that would work best for you, okay? So let's go now into looking at, actually I do have creatives here for you. I want to show you the bait that I came up with for Leslie, and Leslie's assistant ended up putting this together. Based off of, I could have done this a multitude of different ways, in terms of using the, in terms of using, this list here. Obviously I went for way number 2, right? If it works, why do I need to change it, really, honestly? So I went for number 2, right? And in this one, we did 10 simple tips to help prioritize your student to plan ahead and avoid procrastination. Prioritize kept coming up all over the darn place in the survey. Plan ahead came up a few times, so I added it in there. And to avoid procrastination came up all the time. So my main goal was to get the words prioritize and procrastination in there. Okay. So 10 simple tips to help prioritize your student to plan ahead and avoid procrastination. Now, the great thing about advertising on Facebook is if one particular bait line does not work well, you simply switch it up with a different bait line still based off of the survey. But out of all the different surveys that I've done and different research stuff that I've done, the baits that I've put together have worked pretty well. When they have not worked, it pretty much ended up being the audience that I was showing that bait to. Okay, it might have not been the right audience that resonated with this. So 10 simple steps to help prioritize your student to plan ahead and avoid procrastination. That's what I'm going to use for Facebook advertising. It's a little bit long. I might end up, this is a rough draft, but this is basically where I'm going with this. So once people opt in, right, at the end, we're really trying to get her to sell her journals. But this is one way to get people in without feeling overwhelmed that they have to buy something immediately from us, right? They need to get to know us first. So this is what we created. This is her PDF, Academic Life Coach Leslie, Order Out of Chaos. And so this is pretty much what her assistant put together for delivering the bait. So when people, click on our ad and opt in, this is pretty much what they're going to get. Okay. And then at the end, depending on what, if you have a Facebook group, if you have a fan page, if you just want people to go, or if you just have a regular, business Facebook page, always add some sort of call to action at the end. Okay. For my 10-point product checklist, I had people join the private Facebook group, which is why at, the first 3 weeks, I think there were people being funneled into that Facebook group because that was the call to action when people received my 10 tips to finding a profitable product to sell on Amazon. The one suggestion I gave to Leslie was for her to actually write out the correct full URL for her Facebook business page for Order Out of Chaos, and to have it be clickable, within this PDF. That's the way that I did mine. And so, people don't have to do an extra step, go to Facebook, find Order Out of Chaos. They can go ahead and click on there and take an action. So that is the bait that we came up with, and that is how we came up with the bait. So let's see. So if you do not have a group yet that you can go ahead and email. Here we go. One thing that you can do, and I think we've already, we might have discussed this in other videos. I really am a big fan of groups, niche groups. So if you're into candle making, you want to get yourself into, and you're selling, things related to candles, get yourself into a niche Facebook group related to candle making, or at least follow a fan page that does candle making. Okay. Within those groups, there are tons of different conversations going on where you can extract wants, pain points, needs. But the number one tip that I would give you, if you don't have your own email list yet of people to survey, is if you are involved in some of the fan pages or private Facebook group for these niches, your niche, then go ahead and pose one question in that group. You may have seen people do this. You're like, why are they just asking a random question like that? A lot of the times people are trying to gather information so that they can come up with a bait. Okay. Now I wouldn't go ahead and list 5 questions at one time. All these 5 questions or 4 questions I just gave you rather. I would go ahead and list, in not like a sly manner, but don't make it look like you're trying to survey people, right? I would go ahead and let's take a look. What's your number one struggle with time management? In other words, if you can name the one thing that gets in the way, what would this one thing be? Hey, I'd probably pose a question. My friend actually is a professional time management. I forget what she calls herself exactly. Professional time management consultant for adults, by the way, for entrepreneur adults. So she has a group. But this would be like, hey guys, what's my son struggles with getting his work done at night, and I've been trying all sorts of stuff. What's your let's see, I'm actually trying to think of this off the cusp here. What's your child's number one struggle with time management? Go ahead and ask that question. All right. Like what I'm trying to say is don't be super like invasive in these groups where you're going to get kicked out, because a lot of people run these groups because they know that they can get information from some of the group members about the wants and the needs. Now, that's one way. What is this? Radiant Boston. This was a number actually that called me, and I was like, who is that number calling me? So one thing, oh, and this was, now that I'm looking at all this, this was my friends and I were playing, now that I have this open, my friends and I were playing one of these games. It wasn't, it was Pictionary, I think it was, where I had to go draw the Wonder Woman symbol, and I didn't know exactly how it looked like. All right. Anyways, so what I would do, so I would go extra virgin olive oil. If I was selling extra virgin olive oil, which I've mentioned this a few times in different videos, and I had no customers to survey. What I would do is I would put in some of my keywords into Google and look for the blog post on the first and second pages, mainly the first page, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find, if it's on the first page of Google, yeah, they could have done great SEO and gotten on the first page, but also if there's a lot of interest in a particular subject, it will end up on the first and the second page of Google. So I would look through here, I would read some of these blogs and just try to figure out, okay, is there something that I can extract from these blogs that where I can at this moment guess at my bait. Now, guessing at your bait using this system, right, of looking through the blog post, it's not going to get you the best, cost per lead, but it's going to be a start until you start getting some actual, people onto your email list. So I did this process. Extra virgin olive oil is fake. So this is what I ended up doing. Your extra virgin olive oil is fake. I ended up picking this for my original bait when I was coming up with my first bait line at the Extra Evo that I am selling. And this came up last year, right? So your extra virgin olive oil is fake. Fake elicits a crazy emotion in someone. That actually makes people stop a little bit. So anytime you can elicit some sort of emotion by including one of these power words into your bait, then go ahead. So for Leslie's, by the way, simple. That's all I did. Simple. It elicits an emotion. 10 simple tips, right? Instead of saying 10 tips to help prioritize, 10 simple tips, 10 amazing tips, 10 proven steps. These are words that elicit emotion that you want to make sure that you have in your bait. Okay. So I came up with, I started reading these and I came up with extra virgin olive oil, fake, fraudulent. I came up with along the lines. I'm going to show you again, one of the, where is it here? Is it here? Bop, bop, bop. Where is my form? Is it here? There we go. All right. So these were the actual original ads that I ran on Facebook to get people to opt in. Okay. They worked fairly well. Like now I would not 100% do something like this. Like I would still do something along these lines. Like for example, the one that I'm working on now is pretty much putting the same exact thing, the 5 tips to avoid, buying extra virgin olive oil into video format, just so I can change that up and create content as opposed to an opt-in. But, a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago now, when I didn't have any information, this is what I used. And for my original purposes, it worked well. Now, if I want to survey people, then I want to go, I go ahead and survey them so that I can create something that's going to be useful for them, okay, that they're going to want to go ahead and click on. So I also want to explain real quick too. Now, if this is not going to work for every single one of your e-commerce products, and I definitely understand that, okay? All your e-commerce, products aren't going to have this kind of stuff. So what I would suggest is, like, if you're doing a DIY type of product, that's an easy one, right? Because you can always say, all right, well, here's how to make, 10 patterns on how to make XYZ, or 10 pattern if you're selling, crafting kits on Amazon for kids. Here's 10 craft projects you can do with, and whatever that particular material is that you're using for the crafting or whatever. So now they know how to do it. They get the PDF, and then you go ahead and you upsell them on your Amazon product. So, that's kind of one thing that you can do there. Be creative with the stuff. It doesn't necessarily always come easily. Sometimes you just have to think a little bit harder about what angle to take. But the point of this is really to come up with the perfect bait based off of research, if that is available to you. Now, even if this means that you have to private message people on Facebook who are in a niche group, one or two, just to ask them, hey, can I ask you a quick question? Why don't people buy? What's the problem with people? What's the number one challenge that your son might have with time management or whatever? I'm just trying to fill out a survey. I don't really have any people and I have a question. Do you mind answering? And again, don't go about doing this with everything or with everyone, but some tips to get you going. So there we go. This is how do you come up with your perfect bait. And I have the rough draft right now for Leslie's, and we're going to work on putting her ad sets together and whatnot. So you will see video number 2, video number 3 video number 2 should actually be, will most likely be me putting her funnel together for this bait. And I'll tell you, just to give you a quick heads up, it's going to be basically me trying to get leads and at least cover some of the costs with an upsell on the thank you page. Okay, there you go. How to create your perfect bait.